On today's show, it's Friday. Let's have some fun in the NBA after a crazy, kind of stressful media day at times. We're going to play cap or no cap with some of the wildest quotes from across media day in the NBA this week. And then we will power rank the players most affected by the new offensive rules. Should be good. Nick Angstadt, Adam Mares here on Locked On NBA on a Friday.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast. And joining me, as always, on a Friday from Locked On Nuggets and DNVR. What you got for me, Adam Mares?
Oh, I've just got a fun first week of training. Actually, it wasn't that fun. I lied. I just lied out of my teeth. It was a not very fun first week of the NBA season.
It's like so in Texas we have certain seasons, and there's not many seasons like physical seasons, but one of them is called false fall, where you're not out of summer yet, and you get like the 1 or 2 days of 70 degrees, and you're starting to feel like, oh dang, finally summer is over. That's what I feel like media day is. It's false fall because
it's so true.
The NBA is kind of here, but it's also not.
It's not. And then next week we get preseason. We're going to be so pumped for that. And then the games are going to be like ridiculous. They might not even be on television. And you're right. A lot of false summits before we really get to the top.
Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every single day. Remember, Locked On NBA is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On NBA. All right, we are diving into the Ben Simmons situation. We're going to play a game called Cap or No Cap, and then Power Rank, as always, on a Friday. Let's start with the Ben Simmons situation. It continues on. There's no real updates in this, right? It's just whoever says something last it's yeah. News, right? Like it just becomes the thing of the day. Joel Embiid went on a pretty long quote about an article, a quote, something that he read that said that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid were not a fit together, and he said it was, quote, borderline disrespectful to say that they did not fit together. Let's pregame a little bit with our game. Cap or no cap? It's disrespectful to say that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid didn't fit together or aren't fitting together because he's not gone yet.
I'd say no cap. I mean, look, those guys really did. If you look at the net rating or some of the advanced metrics when those guys were on the court, dominant during the regular season, even in the playoffs, it wasn't necessarily indicative of what happened in the playoffs last year, or even if you go back several. I mean, Ben Simmons is both personal flaws as a player and fit on that team, got exposed more in the playoffs. But if you said in aggregate, did those guys fit together? Yeah, I think everything Joel Embiid said was very true, except the part where he said it's disrespectful, this or that. Look, and he actually even talked about, I think he was even referencing some of the things with Ben Simmons not showing up being disrespectful, this or that. That part is true, but let's not forget where the disrespect began. This is why the situation is so funny. You don't have to necessarily take a side. You could just look at it and say, I know why Joel Embiid said it was Simmons' fault last year. I know why Simmons is not at camp. Both guys are upset. Both guys were disrespectful. Here we are.
And the same thing, like you said, to the fit. I can understand why people would say they don't fit together. If your goal is, all right, can these two players that were top picks, that were the culmination of the process, if these two players cannot fit together enough to win a championship, I can understand how you would say that. But they played good basketball together, right? Like they were like, a really good winning team for a while. 50 wins, the equivalent of like 50 wins, and then almost 50 wins last year in a truncated season. So they fit together. They played pretty well together. They played good basketball. They may not have played great basketball together.
I think they played great basketball in the regular season, and they played very good basketball for most of the playoffs. And so So this is what's so interesting about the NBA. If you would have thrown out this last season, if you never going into the season, in fact, people thought the Milwaukee Bucks were, they'll never get over the hump, or they've got some fatal flaw. Now nobody thinks that. Could the 76ers have gotten over a hump this season if there was a better vibe around the team? Maybe. And then we just talk about how they grew and did this. But I mean, look, the train's left the station. The ship has sailed. This thing is already gone, and I think everybody knows it. And now every single word that is uttered outside of the 76ers camp is full cap. This is just, we are trying to retain any ounce of value. We would love for him to be here. There's still a chance. I still believe we can, if he comes by, I still believe. No, they don't. You just want to, you just know every day he doesn't show up puts more pressure on you.
Yeah, and if Joel Embiid came out and said, yeah, he's not coming back. Right, like that doesn't look like a good teammate. Because if he does come back, then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, he didn't believe in me," all that kind of stuff.
Are you tired of this story at all, Nick? Like, it's a slow. We've been watching this thing happen and develop all summer. Now it's here, and I'm just wondering, does it have legs, or are we just like, well, we're in a holding pattern?
I feel like I've been tired of the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid story for like 4 years.
Okay, there you go.
We've been waiting for them to break up, and now the breakup has started, and you're like, okay, well, they're breaking up. One of them has moved out, basically, right?
Not returning text messages, definitely.
The other part of this quote that I found so interesting was that Joel Embiid kept running through the list of like moves that the Sixers made to try and build a team around Ben Simmons and like placate to his skills because of his situation. And Joel Embiid saying, I think I can make any player work. I can make any player better on the floor. They kept bringing in shooters. He also said, I don't need shooters. I don't know if that's true, Joel.
Right,
like, I don't know if that's true, but
I'm telling you, a lot of cap from Embiid today.
He says I thought that getting rid of Jimmy was a mistake. That's something he said, which I found kind of interesting. You usually don't hear players go backwards in time and say, well, that move that was made was a mistake.
They didn't really get rid of Jimmy so much as Jimmy got rid of them. But you know what? Doesn't
also
matter.
True.
The details don't matter in this instance. Here's one thing. It's funny because Joel Embiid is in this press conference talking a little bit like a blogger. Because he's making shooting as like, hey, we built a team around him. We gave him shooting. Anybody watched the 76ers knows this was Joel Embiid's team. The style of basketball they played was more tailored towards Joel Embiid's skill set than it was Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons did make enormous sacrifices throughout his entire career. And for good reason. Joel Embiid is a better player and a more dominant player than Ben Simmons is. But this idea that this roster was built to Ben Simmons' strength and the style of play, I just don't think it's true. And this is part of what makes the situation so interesting is you really can blame both sides equally for sort of how it turned out. That's a duo, and more broadly speaking, it's an organization that never figured out how to capitalize on the very great start they got to the process.
Absolutely. And if you went back, not last year, but the year before, that time that Joel Embiid missed when Ben Simmons was at the forefront, they played Ben Simmons basketball, and it looked very different than what the Sixers normally did. They played up and down more. They didn't have as many half-court sets, like all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, to your point, they were built around Joel Embiid a little bit, right? Like shooting around a center is not like a new thing.
And just posting him up so much. I mean, honestly, if you thought about what is a perfect Ben Simmons team, and first of all, let me just say, I'm not sure Ben Simmons is a good enough guy. I'm sure there's teams out there that would rebuild and say, okay, everything around you. But I don't know that he's good enough that it's definitive. He's not like Giannis. He's not like LeBron. He's just a little bit below those guys. But if you were to build a team entirely around his talents, I think you would give him a lot of shooting, put the ball in his hands, and his big man would be Jared Allen. Set a screen, roll to the basket, try to dunk it. That's it. You wouldn't have a guy that's posting up and in the paint and this or that, or so maybe you give him a pick and pop big or something like that, but definitely not Joel Embiid. That's not to say they shouldn't have made it work or couldn't have made it work, but I just don't think it's an ideal, and I think it's very obvious to anybody that's watched the 76ers that was Embiid's team that Simmons had to tailor his game around.
Absolutely. All right, coming up, we're going to play a game of cap or no cap, whether we say that quotes from Media Day were basically true or false, or we're calling shenanigans on it, I guess is maybe the right way to do it. But before we do, let me tell you about Indeed.com. General managers ask questions to find the right players. They say, does Joel Embiid fit with Ben Simmons? Well, you need to know if this new player that you're going to draft or this new person you're going to hire for your team is going to fit. They ask questions like, do they have ice in their veins? When you're hiring, you need the Indeed assessments to make sure that your candidates have the skills that you need. You can just put a little box there that says, can you shoot threes? Will you shoot threes? Will you only shoot threes in a off-season workout video, or will you actually do it during the game? You can put that in your Indeed assessment. Go and check out Indeed.com. Get started right now. now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com. Those are the ones that show up at the top. As soon as somebody searches for your job, they're going to see that sponsored job thing. So go get it. Get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/locked. Indeed.com/locked. Offer valid through September 30th. Terms and conditions apply. Also, I want to tell you about Built Bar. It's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Ooh, right now, all Built Bites, $30 for a box. You can go get them. The bites are just like a even more like carryable, like snack size version. It's the fun size version of the candy bar, right? Like this is what these Built Bites are. And they have all kinds of flavors that you can go check out right now. Cherry lime is a new one that they're pushing right now. Peanut butter brownie, coconut almond is good. Mint brownie is probably the best consistent one they have all the time. Raspberry, cherry barcia. People love the cookies and cream. You can go get them at built.com and you can use that promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off for all their products. The bites, the full bars, the puffs, the broth, the boost, any kind of stuff that you can get at Built that helps you, and they're good for you. The cherry lime bar, 140 calories, 17 grams of protein, 5 grams of sugar in that bar. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 at built.com. All right, Adam Mares, let's get into a game, cap or no cap. I'm going to be giving you some quotes, and we're going to decide if it's cap or no cap. The first one, I'm volleyballing one up for you right now. I'm setting this one up for you.
This one's obvious. I can't wait. I
know you're ready for this one. LeBron on changing his number from 23 to 6. Quote, "It's always been part of me, to be honest."
Oh, God. Man, that was way worse than I thought it was going to be when you teed it up. It's cap. Come on, man. It's all cap. LeBron has only embellished, exaggerated. He's only put the flair on everything he's ever said over the last, 10 years. This is fully cap. Totally cap. Come on now.
I don't even know what that means. This number has always been part of me. What does that mean?
The number 6, huh? Is there a number that you feel has always been part of you?
No.
I don't even. You're right. I don't know what it means. This is cap. Come on, LeBron.
Yeah, that was funny to me. A little just like a little too Hollywood, maybe. Okay. LeBron, get out of LA a little bit, LeBron. All right, next one. Frank Vogel says LeBron is losing his voice because of, quote, the intensity of today's practice. Now, I'm going to send you this. Is it because of the intensity, or is it because all the players of the team are so old that he has to yell louder so that they can hear him?
It might be that one. It might be the second one. This one I actually believe. Frank Vogel telling the truth here. LeBron James, 82-game season, didn't win a championship last year, sees the clock ticking. I think he's dialed in. He's locked in. He's screaming at camp. We'll see if he's screaming, in January, February, all-star break practice. Yeah. We'll see if he's screaming then. But right now, he's definitely winning the wind sprints, all that stuff.
Yeah, no cap for me for sure. All right, next one. My favorite quote from Media Day, from any Media Day that happened across the NBA. There was a big story that came out that a certain general manager went to a certain player's hotel room and played a piano for him, and Zion Williamson had this quote, "I am not letting a grown man come to my hotel room and play the piano for me." Is this cap or no cap that Zion Williamson would do?
I'm going to say it's no cap, but it did happen. I don't think
You're telling me if John Baptiste was like, "Hey Zion, you want to hang out and I could play piano in your room," that he wouldn't be like, "Yeah, man, sure."
No, he would have said no. And definitely if David Griffin showed up with a keyboard and said, "Hey, I got a little ditty for you," he would have preferred that did not happen, but it did. And so he was like, "What am I supposed to do here? I got to listen to this."
I'm going to say cap because I think there'd be certain players. Like John Baptiste is the perfect example. He's from New Orleans. He's on the, he's an incredible piano player. If John Baptiste came up to Zion and was like, "Hey, I got this keyboard. Can we go jam in your hotel room?" He would be like, "Yes."
Look, New Orleans keyboardist, I don't know if he would have been down with that. If you give me a New York keyboardist, okay, maybe an Alicia Keys he would have been in. If there was a New York
if Alicia Keys came up to him with a keyboard. Well, he's his grown man, so
that is true.
If Elton John came up to him and was like, okay.
This happened though, right? And Zion also, I feel like he denied this story while also being like, wink, yeah, it happened. Because he's like,
right.
No, man, he didn't bring a piano. There might have been a keyboard. It's like,
might have been a keyboard. All right. Okay, here's the real one, I think. Draymond says he doesn't believe his spicy podcast with Kevin Durant last month had any effect on his relationships with Warriors head coach Steve Kerr and team president Bob Myers. Quote, no different than before, he says. If you remember the interview with Durant and with Draymond Green, where Draymond basically calls out the coach and the GM for the whole Kevin Durant situation going south. I'm calling cap on this. There's no way the relationship isn't changed at all.
I'm calling no cap. Not because it didn't change like that, but because it was already bad. Like, I think already it was like
it was already there.
Them. This is not a new thing. I mean, this goes all the way back with Steve Kerr. Didn't he have the weird press conference after the 2017 championship? Like when they were doing the parade, he had the weird Draymond call out. Those two have been, I think, awkward for years, but there's also like a mutual appreciation and respect to this or that. So it works, but I believe it. I think it's more common than people realize that coaches and players can have a respect for each other professionally and no relationship or an adversarial relationship once the practice or game is over.
Yeah, the father-son type thing doesn't really happen, right? That doesn't really happen in the NBA. We're hearing it all week with the Belichick-Brady stuff, right? Like the way that Belichick treated him. By the way, whatever light fixture in your house looks exactly like a tiny chef's hat on top of your head right now. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see this floating.
Next week I'll have a set. Next week I'll be back to having a set. I can't wait.
Okay, here's one that made me go, wait, what? Kyle Anderson, quote, this team hasn't seen old. I've seen some old guys.
I don't know. It's a great quote. I'm going to say no cap. I believe he has seen some old guys.
Kyle Anderson has seen some old guys.
I believe he has.
That was just a dumb quote.
But it's a great one.
All right, cap or no cap. As you would expect, Chris Paul said he has been talking to Devin Booker, quote, every day, all day, while Devin Booker is away from the Phoenix Suns right now.
I'm going to say cap.
There's no way.
Yeah, they're probably texting. This is kind of funny, right? Because this is like when your mom's like, you never call. And you're like, I always call. And the truth is maybe somewhere in the between. Like, okay, I call once a week or twice a week. So I would say he probably texts him once a day. And it feels like all day to him.
Yeah, right. Is that all day?
Yeah.
Been texting him all day?
He likes an Instagram post. He counts that as communication.
Devin Booker sitting there at home, like COVID. He's like, I'm trying to get over this. And then all of a sudden,
nonstop.
His phone just vibrates off the end table. Yeah. All right. Thunder coach Mark Daigneault says on Josh Giddey's role, quote, I don't know yet. I'm calling cap on this. There's no way he doesn't know what Josh Giddey's role is going to be.
I'm calling cap as well. This is a great one too because I'm calling cap. It's very clear what his role is going to be.
Yeah, the quote goes on. Certainly, when he's on the floor with Shea, it'll be off the ball mostly, but that doesn't mean exclusively. So he says what it is. He says what his role is going to be after that. Anyway,
I guess in the most literal sense, it's true. Like I don't know how this season's going to go.
Yeah,
but come on, maybe we'll play him at center. I don't know. We have no idea.
Okay, the Boston Celtics have become re-enamored with a player that they used to have. Coach Ime Udoke says that Al Horford arrived to camp in great shape for a 15-year-old vet. Quote, whether he found the fountain of youth or it's all the time that he had off, we're loving what we're seeing from him. I just want to know, should we buy this Al Horford stuff from Celtics camp? Because it seems like he's going to be the starting center, and it's just all back to, all right, Al is our guy again.
No, he's good, and there is something to I'm selling it if you think Al Horford's going to be one of the 5 best centers in the NBA this year. I'm selling that.
Fair.
Which is what he was maybe 3-4 years ago. You know, he was in that conversation. Now, no, but can I believe that he is a serviceable center? Yeah. So I'm going to call no cap on this.
In great shape for a 15-year-old vet. I'm believing that too.
Yeah, Al Horford seems like a guy that stays in shape.
Okay, this is like one of those the Jesus and Miro allegedly thing we have to do over and over. Allegedly, this is allegedly. Joe Freeman, Blazers beat writer, says, I've talked to people who say Portland's been hesitant to move CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons because they think CJ is a better, more polished adult player than Ben Simmons. Do we believe that Portland says this, that they believe this, that he's a more polished adult player than
I'm going to call cap on this. Then I think this would be an incredible trade for Portland. Are you kidding me? It is weird because they set up their plans this season bringing in Larry Nance Jr. Like they didn't really fit they didn't really get their team prepared for a Ben Simmons trade. But that being said, like, come on, CJ McCollum is good. Is he a top 20 guard, top 15 guard? I mean, I know it sounds like a hot take, but you start naming off the guards that are in the NBA. There's so many good ones. CJ McCollum is really good. He's an above average second guard, but get out. Like, no, you could trade him.
Yeah,
adult or child, you could trade him.
The adult word is kind of interesting to me and kind of throwing me off. But it's like, okay, if they're gonna say that even just internally, then I don't think they're gonna trade for him if that's the way that they look at him.
Here's what I will say. Reports like this one, because if you look around and say where's Ben Simmons going to land, Portland is obviously one of the teams that is highest on the list of what people think. Yeah. This is the type of thing you feed reporters right now. Like, we're so not interested. It's not just that we're not interested. Maybe if they lower the price a lot, but right now we are so not interested in him because he's not this is the game that's being played. So maybe they did say it, but whether they really think it, I'm going to call cap.
Another Grizzlies quote, one of my favorite quotes in the NBA, Steven Adams. A reporter said that Steven Adams is, quote, the old man of the team, which he is the oldest player on the Memphis Grizzlies right now. And he was born in 1993. He is 28 years old, just turned 28 years old recently. He said, Steven Adams says, quote, "It cuts me deep. Why did you say it, you bastard?"
I don't think it cuts him that deep.
I thought that was
it cuts him that deep. Steven Adams, I feel like
he's cut already. He's doing all right.
Cut.
Aquaman. All right, last one for you. On Jimmy Kimmel's show, Dwayne Wade's partner and wife, Gabrielle Union, said that she dropped $20,000 in a strip club in trips with Dwayne Wade. Cap or no cap?
No cap. Very believable. And also, we don't need all these details. I feel like we get too many details of Dwayne Wade's and Gabrielle Union's life. I don't need them all.
I'm okay. That's not even the most detailed thing we've heard about them.
It's definitely not, and didn't need this one either, though.
All right,
hold up. I got one. I got the one for you.
Oh, yeah, go.
All right, so the one for you came from Pat Bev. I think this one was today or yesterday. He says, they, meaning the Clippers, they asked me what team did I want to go to, and one of the first teams I said was the Minnesota Timberwolves. What?
No, come on, this is Cat. The first team he thinks of is the Timberwolves. He can name any team.
Another quote said that he gave him 3 teams, and the Timberwolves were in the top 2. So again, there's no chance, right? Come on.
So there's only one team you'd rather go to?
I know. I wonder if Minnesota's number 1, who's number 2? What's like Orlando number 1?
Like the Thunder? Yeah.
Sacramento.
Yeah, right.
Oklahoma City.
And I'm not sure he's even going to start in Minnesota.
I don't know, man. I just know. I just do not believe it. I'm calling cap on this.
For sure. We'll see how that Patrick Beverley thing goes. All right, coming up, we're going to go back to our power rankings in the NBA. The NBA is announcing some new rules. Some of them I like and I think that are good for the game. And there's one of them I think is really, really good for the game. And so we're going to break down the players most affected by these new rules coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about betonline.ag. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to put down some money on sports. I alluded to the Brady Belichick Bowl. Oh, they're right on the front page. You can bet on all kinds of stuff in this game. There's so many lines, so many odds. It's almost nauseating how many things you can bet on at this point. Who will catch Brady's record-breaking pass? He's about to break the record for, I think, yards all time. Gronkowski is 7-2. Chris Godwin is 4-1. Mike Evans 4-1. You can put some money on that if you want to. Let's see. What will be said first during the broadcast? Brady, Jones, or Belichick? Which word will be said first on the broadcast? You can go bet on that if you want to at BetOnline.
That's actually super fun. I'm down with that. That's a great one.
How many people will watch Tom Brady or the Patriots versus the Buccaneers? Over under 26.5 million.
That's another fun one. This is great. These are great bets. You're luring me in.
BetOnline.ag. Use the promo code LOCKEDON to get a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Adam Mares, let's get into our power rankings. The NBA referees or the NBA officials came out with new rules For the 2021-22 NBA season, there will be an interpretive change in the officiating of overt, abrupt, or abnormal non-basketball moves by offensive players with the ball in an effort to draw fouls. The following points of education videos showcase areas where change was needed. They show a bunch of videos about different things. There's non-basketball moves. It's essentially the moves where a player will pump fake and a defensive player will dive at them, basically, and then the offensive player will go out of their way to run into them or lean into them and then take an awkward off-balance shot. Or the Trae Young, Chris Paul play where they back up into somebody and while they're, running down the lane. Those kind of plays are going to be interpreted differently this year. And so I think it's great. They're taking that out of the game. I think that that's an incredible move because it just made basketball unwatchable. Like I cover Luka Doncic and the Mavericks. There are just times when he does things and you're like, okay, yeah, it was a good, smart, savvy move, but like, it was just so annoying to watch.
Right. Yeah, no, this is definitely good. I am curious. You mentioned the Chris Paul stick the butt out, kind of stop on a dime thing. I wonder if that's part of this. I can't get clarification if that specific action is.
It was one of the plays in the clips that they showed.
It was. Okay, that's great. Okay, so then definitely
they showed
I'm all for it. Because here's the thing is there are plays where a change of pace or a sudden stop, those are basketball moves, right? Like if you have a hesitation, you're actually what you are doing is changing up your speed to trick the defense. So we allow it. But I do think that specifically with trying to get guys to run into you, to me is like taking advantage of that sort of dynamic, and I don't like it. So I'm glad to hear that as part of the points of emphasis.
So we're going to power rank the players that this affects the most, but quickly, there's one other change that was announced. The NBA announces it has officially eliminated referee-initiated replay reviews on out-of-bounds violations during the last 2 minutes of the fourth period and last 2 minutes of any overtime period.
That's great.
Oh, finally, we're not going to have like hour-long ends of games. Every time my wife comes in during a game, she's like, oh, how much time is left? I'm like, 5 minutes. She goes, okay, I'll see you in 45 minutes.
All right. Yeah.
So that's another great change that I think that the NBA is implementing here.
Okay. All righty. I'm with it. I'm with that one.
All right. So let's power rank the 5 players that are going to be the most affected by this ruling, where it's changing the rules, where you can't do the whole lean in or back up or all that kind of stuff and make an awkward off balance move that isn't a basketball play. Number 5 for me, a little sneaky one. Steph Curry, he's flailing all over the place. His legs are sticking out all over the place. He's flailing on this one.
I can't believe you. No way. Come on. He's just a great shooter. He flails because people hit him and he still makes it. He's a great shooter. He is not on my top 5.
You don't think he leans or anything like that?
I don't think if we think about who's going to be affected this year, I don't think Steph Curry will necessarily be affected that much.
Okay, my other one though, I was going back and forth between these two. The other one was Devin Booker. I was going to put at 5 because Devin Booker throws the foot out a lot. Like on those jumpers, he's always like falling down after somebody hits his foot.
He definitely does a lot of this. I don't know that wouldn't have made my top 5 either, but he is higher on the list than Steph Curry for me.
All right, number 4, Christian Emmanuel Paul. Chris Paul, but this is like his whole game basically now at this point. I don't know if his middle name's Emmanuel, but this is his game right now. I think that he'll be able to figure it out, and he's smart enough to get over it. But yeah, he's the one that backup move, he basically taught everyone that move.
The NBA rules committee or whatever it's called, competition committee, they can never outdo Chris Paul. He's always one step ahead of them. So you're right. He's going to have to adjust his game, but he's already thought of the next wave of whatever this is. Like, hey, you know what? They didn't emphasize this new thing because you think about it, they got rid of that rip through, right? They got rid of it. So when you rip through, it's not a shooting.
The KD rip through. Yep.
But what does Chris Paul do? He just waits till you're in the bonus. He'll rip through 8 times in 2 minutes if you're in the bonus because at that point it's just a 1-and-1. So you automatically or the bonus. So, yes, he have to change. He is one of the biggest offenders of this, but he'll figure something new out.
All right, number 3 may surprise some people that it's only at 3. Trae Young.
Okay, I could see it. He's definitely, he's easily top 3.
Easily top 3, but yeah, I think he's only 3. The backup move where you drive into the paint a little bit, you got the defender on your butt, and then you just like flail backwards. Nobody takes a shot like that, but
Trae has the added benefit of being like 150 pounds.
Yeah,
so
right.
Everybody in the NBA, if they just barely like bump into him, he falls over. Not even flopping, he just does fall over. So
any movement is a lot of movement on that.
Totally.
So yeah, his game's going to be Who's going to be affected a lot? The two ahead of him, like these three players had to be up here in the top three. There's just no getting around putting these three players. Number 2 may surprise some people, but he's kind of gone under the radar a little bit. James Harden. This is like almost the rule. Like
James
this is almost
Harden has gone under the radar on this move. He invented it.
That's what I'm saying, but he is not the one that people are talking about the most on Twitter right now. I went through the mentions on all the, like a bunch of the mentions of people out of these NBA official tweets, and it was like the 2 players at 1 and 3 mentioned more, and I was like, this is James Harden's rule, basically.
It definitely is. I mean, a lot of these are his moves, but I don't. He would have been in my top 5. He probably would have been 5, though. He probably would have been.
And it's to his credit. No, he's got to be in the top 3 to me.
All right. I'm so curious now who your number 1 is.
Oh, it's Luka Doncic. I watch him. He does this.
Wow.
He does this twice a game. Like he does some of these moves like this, and it really annoys me. But he does this so often. Right. This is like a huge part of his game right now.
I have a prediction. Neither Harden nor Doncic, like they're still going to get the most of these calls. That's my prediction. They're both big, and I just think there's something to like the way they do it is just a little bit different than the Trae Youngs of the world, you know. And I think that they're still going to get it to get these foul calls because it is a fine line, right, between I jumped forward and a guy hit you even though you jumped forward, they still took away your space or what have you. I think these guys are. I think those two they might be in my top 5, but they'd be right around 5. You missed number 1 though. There's a number 1 that you missed completely.
Who did I miss?
The biggest offender. A man who had 55 in the first round of the playoffs last year on 28 free throw attempts, Damian Lillard. He is the absolute king of these, like jumping sideways, shot fake, jump to the left, jump forward, jump backward. He does these nonstop. He pulls up from deep. Damian Lillard to me is the number 1 offender. He would have been number 1 on my list.
Interesting. Okay. Can hear
so
that.
Much so that if this rule, I'm not convinced this rule is going to have any impact because I don't know if it's going to be enforced. But
it's hard to enforce it.
I'm discounting the Portland Trailblazers 2 games just for this rule alone.
2 wins just because 2 wins. So where I think it's going to affect these guys' games, like Luka and Harden, is the bailout plays, right? Like Luka would use this play a lot last season when they were running out of time, and he's like, let me just try and throw something up. And it's almost like the trying to get a false start on offense in the NFL, right? Like you're just sitting there trying to draw them off sides.
That's a great comparison. Yeah,
I'm sitting here watching the Thursday night football game on the left. That's why I have so many football analogies today.
That's the dumbest thing that happens in any sport is that whole 4th down and it's
I know.
And they go out there and they take the penalty or whatever, wind it down, and everybody sees it coming.
Now we're doing football talk, but there was 53 seconds left in the second quarter. The Bengals were on like their 1 yard line, so like 99 yards from a touchdown, and they're like trying to draw the Jaguars off sides. You're like, they're not gonna go for it, right? Like they're just not. There's no reason for them to. But yeah, there you go. That's the top 5. What do you think? Let us know in the comments if you think Damian Lillard should be in the top 5, or if you think the top 5 of Luka, Harden, Trae Young, Chris Paul, and Steph Curry should be the 5 right there. There you go. Nick Angstadt, Locked On Mavs. Adam Mares, you can listen to him on Locked On Nuggets. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA. Boom.